I'll probably get a dislike from this video, but games that aged poorly. I was recently playing one of them, and you know how it feels when you play a game that you haven't played in a while and you're really nostalgic for it and it just doesn't feel right. It's like, it's not as good as I remembered it. Well, that happened with me today with Killer Instinct Gold. I remember thinking it was one of the best fighting games in the 90s, but looking back on it, graphically and control wise, it aged poorly. I'm sorry. The music is 10 out of 10. And another game I feel nostalgic for, but it's not a good game to me really at all, is Mario Kart the original. I had a ton of fun playing it with my best friend on the Super Nintendo, but it aged poorly. The only good thing about it is the music. The controls are just terrible in that game to me. And GoldenEye is another one where it aged poorly. I wish they would remake it. With the current graphics, I think it would be really good. It was good for its time, but some of it aged poorly. But 10 out of 10 music again. At least the music is good. Resident Evil 1, everything was terrible in that movie, and terrible in that game, and I'm surprised it even got sequels. Even for its time, I really think it wasn't amazing, especially the voice acting for that. But we got really good sequels after that, especially the fourth game being the best one in my opinion. It's another one. I would say Virtual Fighter, the first one, because of the graphics, but the gameplay probably saves it from graphics are not the most important thing, but it's like the controls. I hate to say a lot of the N64 games have to be on there because a lot of them did not age well in terms of controls or graphics. I would say 90% of the sports games back in the late 90s, early 2000s really didn't age well, especially a lot of those wrestling ones. But I did like the N64 one, the Revenge one. That was a good one, but yeah, what's another one? Honestly, the original first three GTAs, I don't think they aged very well. It's been a long time since I've played them, but looking back on it, it's hard to look at on some of the graphics. I know graphics are not the most important thing, but it's like, on some of the character models. I really hate to put some of these nostalgic games on there. Oh, yeah. The big one that really hurts to put on here. I could still play this one, but some of the parts of the game, it just feels so unfun to play. Pokemon Red and Blue. I love Pokemon. Generation 1 is not the best. I know a lot of people say it is. 151, no. Generation 2 is the best on the games. Anime, I would say Generation 1 was probably the best part of the early seasons of Pokemon, but there's just some parts of Pokemon in the first game, it just feels like a chore. And, you can't do certain things unless you complete this, and sometimes it feels like it takes forever to do certain parts of the game. I remember trying to find, the strain for surf in the Safari. I can't remember which one it was, but in the Safari Zone where you have to find it and you got like a certain time limit when you're walking in the grass, and that's like a pain in the ass. But I really hated that part. But another one that hurts to put on here, and it is one of the very first video games I've ever played, and that is Altered Beast. Has a good soundtrack, but man, the game is hard, and also the controls are not very good. And it's nearly impossible not to die in that game or get a game over. And I've beaten the game. I've beaten the game when I was little, and then it took me 20 plus years to beat it again because the game is extremely difficult. The controls are not very great on there. But I still love the game despite it. I have a ton of nostalgia for it, but it's not the best game that I own. It's not one of the best Sega games, but it is one of the very first video games I ever played, so I'm gonna give it some slack a little bit.